Hello, Aslam class. This is your history lesson for Friday, the 8th of January. Just to recap what we've been doing this week in our history lessons so far, or our wider curriculum lessons. So for our first lesson this week, you were to write down some questions about the Romans, what you already knew about the Romans or what you would like to find out, and then you may have actually done a bit of research yourself and been like a little historian and gone out and actually done your research and tried to answer some of your questions already. In the next lesson, yesterday we looked at all the key vocabulary that we will be using, and then today we are going on to this. So you may want to gather your notes that you've been using already. And I will get up today's slideshow. From this slide, here we go. You can see all this. There we are. Okay, so today is all about, can you actually ask relevant questions about ancient Rome? What I would like you to do very quickly is pause the video, and I want you to figure out what the word relevant is. So pause the video and find out what relevant is. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you were able to find out what the word relevant was. You could have gone on to Google, you could have used a dictionary, you could have asked someone. The word relevant means, does it link to what we're trying to find out? So for example, we're talking about ancient Rome and we're looking about the Romans. If I was to say a question like, did Cleopatra, who was a queen of Egypt, did she marry a Roman emperor, Roman emperor? Would that be relevant? Yes, it would be, because I'm asking a question linking it to the Roman Empire, and she did marry Julius Caesar, in fact. But if I asked a question about ancient Rome and said, what time is break time today? Is that relevant? No, it's not, because it is not about the subject that we are talking about. So relevance is, it has to link to the topic that we are talking about. Now, Rome is the capital of Italy, and this is the Italian flag. Okay, for those guys, that's what it looks like today: green, white, and red. Now, who were the Romans? Some of you may have worked this one out. You may have done a bit of research already, which is really good. So, excuse me, the ancient Roman civilization began in 753 BC. BC means before Christ, when King Romulus founded the city of Rome, naming it after himself. Now, over the next 1,000 years, this small city grew into a large empire. Ancient Romans became one of the most influential civilizations in history, conquering areas in Europe, Africa, and Asia. Influential, that word means very important, and the work that they did, we still see today. For example, the Romans created lots of public baths, hygiene, they created sewers, they built roads, and we still see all of this today. So that's what we mean by influential, okay? They actually, things that they brought in, we still see today. And they were important. In ancient Rome, people spoke Latin. It's a very ancient language, Latin. I can't speak it, but you can actually learn it if you want to. So what made the Romans so powerful then? How were they so successful? Well, the Romans had a very well-organized army, which allowed most of them to conquer other countries. The Roman army was one of the most successful armies in history and far more advanced than any other army at the time. So how were they organized? The Roman army, made up of legions, which had nearly 5,000 men in each legion, and they were organized in a very specific way. 8 men were put into a group called a tent. 10 tents were put together to form a century of 80 men. A centurion was in charge of the century. 6 centuries were then put together to form a cohort of 480 men. And then 10 cohorts were formed together to form a legion. And Roman soldiers had to be very tough. They were highly trained and they had to walk long distances to battles carrying heavy equipment such as weapons, tents, and foods. And you can see in the picture down here, they actually had large shields as well that they needed to carry. And them shields were very important as well. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in detail. So, for example, let's use now, so the Romans had a tactics that they used in battle. Okay, and one of these tactics they used to get into what we call a tortoise. Okay, and just imagine that this is my Roman shield. Okay, and if I had one of these, the person next to me in my line would have one as well, and then people behind me would all have one as well. What would happen is the people at the front would hold their shields up, and you can see just how big their shields are, and it would cover most of their body. They would have a helmet on as well, but it would cover mainly from their shoulder down to their ankles. Okay, then the person behind them would put this on top, okay, to protect the army from any projectiles coming through, arrows or spears coming from the top. And then people who were standing on the side of the tortoise would stand here like this, protecting the side angle as well. So it was like a modern day tank, just made up of human beings. And of course, when they started moving into battle, they were being protected so that they were able to get very close to the enemy before striking. Other armies at the time weren't so sophisticated, and they may have had shields. I'm just exaggerating here. They may have had a shield, not this big, but you get the picture. They may have just been holding a shield that was a lot smaller and it wasn't big enough to protect a whole group of people. So the Roman army was very organized, and they did have some tactics that did help them, like the tortoise. Ironically, this is a tortoise shell that's come off my daughter's sandpit, but just trying to show you the picture of it. So the Romans would be fully protected, head, sides, front, and the back, and they would be able to walk towards their enemies. And of course, it must have been very, very intimidating when you're standing there trying to fight back this moving human tank, and it just doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. It just keeps on moving towards you. So a very intimidating but very useful tactic, and it helped the Romans win lots of battles. So what did they invent? They actually invented concrete. That's why we're talking about them being influential, because concrete we use every day now to build things. I mean, my brick wall behind me, there's probably concrete within the cement that has been used to put the bricks together. So it was invented by the Romans to help make their buildings stronger, and it makes it easier to build. It is thanks to the Romans' concrete that so many of Rome's famous buildings are still standing today, because concrete is a long-lasting material. Newspaper. Newspapers were first invented by the Romans in the year 131 BC. First newspapers were written on metal or stone and posted in public areas. So it wouldn't be like a handheld thing, it would be put up on a wall and you would be able to read the newspaper. They were called acta diurna, which means daily acts. Books. Now, books were invented by Romans too, but before this, everything had to be written on clay tablets or on scrolls. The Romans were the first to actually bind these pages together. The calendar that we follow today is based on the Romans as well. It's very close to the one that the Julian calendar is named after Julius Caesar, and it split the year into 12 months, giving each month a name such as Augustus, September, or Julius. And notice that these are names of some of the Roman emperors. So who ruled Rome? Now, ancient Rome began as a kingdom and was ruled over by kings for 240 years. It then became a republic, and this means that it was run by elected officials that we call senators, and that there was a constitution agreeing how the republic should be run. So very similar to a government. Nearly 500 years later, though, Rome became an empire which was ruled over by an emperor. Caesar Augustus was the first Roman empire. and emperors, had almost complete control over the whole empire. So what they said basically went. Now, Boudica or Boudicca, depending how you want to prescribe it, she was the queen of the Iceni tribe, and she led her army against the Romans. She was as brave and as strong as of any of her soldiers. Now, Boudica lived many years ago, so we don't have much information about her, but we can use objects from the past to help understand her story. Now, did you know that her name comes from the word Buda, which means victory? There are no pictures of her, so we don't know what she actually looked like. But Tacitus said she had long red hair that hung below her waist. And her soldiers painted themselves blue to make themselves look even more frightening. And that's what they would do, the Celts. They would, when they went into battle, they'd put a lot of face paint on, because can you imagine it, standing there and seeing hundreds of men all standing there with blue on their faces and screaming and shouting, going, "No, let's get ready to battle." You might be quite intimidated by that. So that's why they did it. But the Romans were a tough bunch to intimidate and scare. So here are some Roman fascinating facts. The Romans spoke Latin and Greek as their official languages. Although it was such a large empire, there were many languages that were spoken, and very, very similar to our country today. We have lots of different cultures in this country, and lots of people speak loads of different languages and different dialects. Now, the Romans ate foods which we would consider very strange today, such as parrot, peacock tongue, and garum. Now, garum was a condiment, which was very popular. A condiment is like ketchup, and it was used actually like ketchup, and it added all sorts to savory dishes. It was made by crushing and fermenting fish intestines. Oh, blimey. Oh, sorry if you're eating your breakfast. Now, the Romans had lots of uses for urine as well. Yuck. They used to wash their clothes in it, to tan leather, and even to whiten their teeth. Ugh. No, thank you. It's amazing, isn't it? They were quite a hygienic bunch, the Romans, but they did have some very strange things. Now, the Romans built about 55,000 miles of road across the empire, and they built very straight roads because straight is the quickest way to get somewhere. If you start walking around in circles like this, like if I was going to get to one screen to the other, it's easier to walk in a straight line than it is to go around here, and back around here. Yeah, it takes a lot longer. So most of their roads were straight because it was the quickest way to get there. Now, rich Romans often ate lying down. They would lie down on a nice couch, and they would have their servants feeding them grapes while they served them food. So very lazy, some of them. Now, general facts. Rome was founded in 753 BC by its first king, Romulus. It grew into a rich and powerful city during the next few hundred years. Roman legend says that Romulus had a brother called Remus, a twin brother called Remus. And as babies, they were abandoned in the area that later became Rome. A she-wolf found them and raised them. But when they grew up, Romulus fought and killed Remus and became the first ruler of Rome. The Romans built such a huge empire and conquered new lands thanks to their strong army. The Roman army could march up to 40 kilometers a day. Wow, that is a big, big ask. To bring water to their cities, the clever Romans built aqueducts, a system of channels and bridges to transport water for public baths and toilets. So yes, they were quite hygienic, but they still like to clean their teeth with urine. Now, the Romans didn't spend all their time fighting. They were actually amazing architects and engineers too. They built roads and walls and things we now take for granted. And if you get the chance to go and see some Roman artifacts in the world today, if you get to go to Rome and see the Colosseum, you just be amazed at how their architects and engineers, how they built these things is really amazing without any modern day technology like cranes and things like that. But anyway, so there we are. Now your task today is to complete the sections all about information on ancient Rome. And what you need to do, you need to have some keywords in your writing as well, and ask some questions, relevant questions to the topic. So this is the template, okay? I'm going to move myself so you can actually see it. Okay, so can you ask relevant questions about ancient Rome? And this is your template. You need to answer these questions as well. All the information is on the slide, so you can go back and have a look at what I've said. And you can either screenshot this. If you've got a printer, you can print it out, or you can copy this out onto your piece of paper, or you can list it out in subheadings. You don't have to box it all up. It's entirely up to you how you do it. But good luck, and I will see you in the next video.